All right, Ms. Walker, if you'd like to start.
Okay, are we on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, hello everyone, and I want to welcome everybody to our EDI meeting for this month of July 12th. I just want to start out by saying that I very much appreciated our roundtable discussion. I almost felt like I didn't know what it was like to be around a good group of people to be able to discuss things. Being on Zoom is so strange in that way to me, but obviously Zoom was what we needed at the time. So, Mr. Manis can't be with us, so just to let everybody know that. I want to go ahead and just go ahead and jump right to our prioritization of goals, if that's okay. I don't know if we're going to get through an hour and a half, but we'll get through as much as we can with the time we're given. Um, I had after the meeting that we had, I think it was a couple weeks ago, where we had our roundtable. I listened to a lot of you that were there, and I was able to reach out to a few of you. My goal was to be able to speak to everyone. I hadn't had a chance to do that since I've come on board with the school board, and I'm still working my way through. Hopefully, I'll be able to talk to every one of you, in a short amount of time. There's a couple people I still have to call back. But I really wanted to reach out and talk to everyone in the committee about what we are going to do going forward. Because what I thought I heard was that we have been working towards a lot of good work, and we were collecting data, but we hadn't had anything come out of committee yet. And I did mention the fact that as a board member, I like to know, I like to, I'm still figuring out what my role is on the committee as far as what I can do to bring things out of committee. I feel like, we have so many good voices on here and so many good things that we are really working on. And I feel that we should be bringing things out of committee. And so after our discussion, it was pretty clear to me that that was a goal I think everybody had shared. So I'm going to still be reaching out to everyone. It's probably going to take me time to get through everyone, but I would like to have that conversation. And I think that is a good idea, from especially the feedback I'm getting from people so far, is that prioritization of goals is an important thing. We did realign our goals, which is important, obviously, too. At the same time, I feel like there was a desire for everyone to be able to work on something that we could actually come out of committee and bring to the board at large. And whether it's a recommendation, aligning with policy, we're going to really, I think it's a good idea that we do prioritize that. And so I'm going to work on a Google form perhaps to survey everyone. And I'm going to put some things on there that will help us perhaps get really more streamlined on what we're doing with our work. Because there are so many good things to work on. I just feel like for me in my life, prioritization is the key. And I think if we can do that, we can really get on task and really bring some things to the board meetings every month. We are, as a board, working on perhaps going to 2 meetings a month. That has not been voted on yet. But if that's the case, then that'll give us more opportunity to bring things up at board meetings in the public realm. So saying that, once that survey comes out, everyone can give feedback, and then we can look at the results and we can share them, and we can talk about what we will really want to work on first to come out of committee. So I'm going to go. I know it's really quickly. Does anybody want to add in on that? I know everybody will get a chance to once that survey comes out and once I get a chance to talk with everyone. Is there anybody that wants to add anything to that discussion? Okay.
Well,
All right. Well, good. Just go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I know that there was a email that came from one of the members, and I think one of the things that she voiced in her email was the prioritization of goals. So I think you're very much aligned with what she was lifting up as an outcome that she would want to see. And maybe the committee not working on 6 specific areas, but really drilling down to those things that almost could lend themselves for us as quick wins. Really focusing on those short-term outcomes that we could then bring forward, as opposed to really those things that probably are more systemic, and not to
Mm,
disregard those, but to make sure that there is momentum in the work.
absolutely. Yeah,
Also, as
that
an aside, just wanted to congratulate Casey on her special day today, and I don't have to ask if it was a positive outcome. I know that it was, yes. So congratulations, and thank you, Caress, for lifting that up.
Thank you. Yeah, and to to piggyback on what you were saying, yeah, the feedback so far I've gotten is what we as a committee want to do, what our goals are. We need to be action oriented, whether that's recommendations, whether that it speaks to policy, whichever. We do a lot of good work, and when we're coming over data, it's helpful to bring it to the board at large, because a lot of the time they don't get to see what we get to see, and they might miss things that they don't, because Mr. Manis and I are on this committee, we get to hear more about things than they do, and it just would be helpful not only to bring it to the full board so they can hear, but also to bring it to the public at our public meetings. So thank you for that. And if there's nothing else on that, we'll talk more about that later, as we go on, the prioritization of our goals. But I would go ahead and just move on to the next item on the agenda, which is future meeting format. I had a really good experience with our discussion, and I really enjoyed the fact that we were, around each other, giving each other time to say things, to speak, to it just is so much more conducive to a collaborative environment than Zoom is. Not that I'm knocking Zoom, I've appreciated having Zoom. We all have, but being together, I think, is just a lot more productive. Let's just put it that way. And so I would like for us to start meeting together again. I know right now we do one meeting a month. There's going to be survey questions about whether you want to go back to two. But for now, we're going to go back to our meeting at the BOE Center. And we're going to be able to work on things face to face. I just think that's just a much better environment to work. I learned a lot at that roundtable discussion that I really can never learn on a Zoom meeting. And I think it's time that we come back together. I've heard that's the positive feedback I've gotten so far also, that meeting together is important. Did you want to speak to that, Dr. Smith? I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but you do Zoom so well. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, or if anybody else has any thoughts on that.
Well, I'll just say, I think Zoom has helped to build our audience. I think that more folks in our community are aware of the work that we're doing, but there is no replacement for that human connection, to be able to, even have an informal side conversation, or the time that we spend together with each other after the meeting, or folks who come intentionally early to have conversations and to make that connection. So I very much support face-to-face meetings, and look forward to seeing you all.
Yes, so do I. And of course, the public's always welcome. Our meetings are always open to the public. There's room, there's room for everyone. If people that want to come watch our meetings live, then that's fine too. Is anybody, I hate to, I'm flying through this agenda, but these are the things that I had written down for our agenda this week. And we could do subcommittee updates and that, and we still can do that. I haven't put it on the agenda, but we want to get to the discussion, on a reflection side of it. But I really wanted to take time to this meeting, especially since it's kind of a sparse meeting, vacation time, everyone's on summer mode, to just go over what our meeting formats are like and kind of what we want to do going forward, because we got a lot of work to do. Our school year is getting ready to start next week, but also the fall, coming back in the fall is just around the corner. And I hear we've got some good things going on in administrative building, with Ms. Barnum, and that kind of speaks to the work we're doing too. And I just think we would do so much better when we get kind of our format and we get together and work on that. I'm not looking at chat. I haven't been checking chat, so if anybody's chatting, I don't know. But if you have anything else to say, just chime in. Anybody that, if I'm talking too fast or going too fast, just chime in and say what you want to say, or type in the chat and we'll talk about it. So I think I've said all I'm going to say about the future meeting format. Like I said, we still meeting once a month. If that changes, if the majority wants to go back to 2, then we will discuss that in the next meeting. But other than that, Casey, she's on the line, right? She's on the Zoom. I said on the line, like it says radio or something. Yeah, Casey's next up on the agenda. And I'm excited about this because I know she's got some good updates about our student voice initiative. Casey, do you want to take over?
Sure. I didn't know I was on the agenda, so I am providing an update about what's kind of the most recent in terms of student voice.
Yeah.
And so there are a couple of students. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. No. Just making sure everybody has the same information. I get it. There's a board meeting, regular board meeting tomorrow, and then I believe there's an interim one in August. I forget the date now, that has been solidified as the date when a couple of our students will be like on the, formally on the agenda of the regular Board of Education meeting. And those students are, these are students that are just like, passionate about the topic of like having more of an opportunity for students to be involved in decision making. So that's really the nature of what they are going to go to the board and speak about, and just begin, I guess, that dialogue with the board in a more like formal manner and in a public way. So yeah, that's I forget now the date, but it's August, the last I heard from Mrs. Adams, the board chair.
I think it's the 17th. If it's the interim meeting, it's going to be the 17th. And that's extremely exciting.
Yes, it is. Gosh, I might be away for that one. But that's okay. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I am actually going to be away, but that's okay. I'm excited for it too. I want to say that, I appreciate your subcommittee's work on this, Casey, and yours especially, because it's a big thing to have student voices. We need it. They're missing in this conversation. And I think if we can start incorporating, however it looks for us, we don't know yet, but I'm hopeful that, when we start off the small steps, having kids, our students come in and, tell us what they want to do. We are as a board, it would be a new thing for this particular board. I don't know what past boards have done, but it would be it's really interesting to see it happen, and I'm excited about it. I know Hugh's excited about it, and whatever we can springboard off on that would be great. I know the meetings that I've come to on Zoom, we had a student that was an actual voting board member. I think that was in Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. And then we had the Charlotte kids, I think was it Charlotte? That they were not voting members, but they were, yeah. And I just like, I would love that. I just think that would make such a big difference. And I'm not even opposed to kind of, having them shadow. I know I've mentioned that a couple of times, but that would be really good for them to learn the process, to learn what we do, how we do agendas, all that stuff. So they maybe get excited about doing civic work and bringing their voices to the board members and the public. So I'm excited about that. And
I have a question. Sure. For the committee here, with this happening in August, but that really just being still kind of a more formal kind of, it's just an agenda item, but it's very positive because all the board members will get a chance to have that dialogue together and with students. But I guess my question for the committee, because what's been rolling around the back of my mind with all of this is to what extent like the school system and the Board of Education sort of take ownership over the process. So, I've been kind of thinking about like, what would it look like if our school system, our board, like really prioritized a design process that really walks students through what they want this to look like. Because one thing we do a lot in education, I think, is like problem solve, but we're not always solving the right problems. And so I think if we, that's something that I don't think our subcommittee can like do. We need more like coordination with other structures in the district, but I also think that we could benefit from having like the expertise of outside support that could help facilitate essentially like a design session, a design sprint. These are just thoughts I've had about it, because it's been really hard, and you know, Ms. Clegg is aware of this because she's really come on board to help some of the coordination here in the spring. And it's just been really hard. Prior to that, probably is because of the pandemic and because of the hybrid nature of stuff and coordinating across schools. But I think that if this was something that had the like district stamp on it, that it was like, it's important to us that students are involved, and we want to understand better how students want to be involved. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just kind of wondering like what other members of the committee think about that.
Well, I can't see anybody talking yet, but I assume like me as a board, as an actual board member, you know, that is excited to see this happen. I feel like we're kind of in uncharted territory. And, you know, I know that you really want to prioritize the students kind of leading this effort in a way. You know, but this is something we can work on. I know I'm doing prioritization of goals, but this is, I think, can go in tandem as well. I think we can work on those things at once. And, you know, it'd be good to talk to them. You know, maybe that means us as board members kind of meeting with them one-on-one and discussing what they kind of want out of the experience, and just see, you know, like I say, I don't really know what it's going to look like, but and if anybody else wants to chime in, you know, it's just so new for me that I'm just excited for them to be there. So I'm kind of just seeing as it goes. So that's my thoughts.
I would say, as the subject matter expert for the Title IX committee, we're also looking at ways to elevate student voices. And so if there could be a, you know, district process that could lead both of our committees, that would be great. But we're at the same step for the Title IX committee piece as well. We recognize that there's a desire at the student level to share their thoughts and concerns. And at the same time, committee members also want to hear those. It's just a matter of how we go about doing it. So I think we could, both committees could benefit. I know I serve on both of them, but both committees could benefit. Maybe we can look at a process to see how we uplift the student voice.
That's a good point. I am on Title IX as well, and I know we have been talking about that. So anything we could do to bridge that, the two committees working together on student voice, that would be great. That will, you know, that I think more voices are better on this especially, because there's some good ideas already coming out of it. We just, you know, we need to talk about it more. That's all. But definitely involving the students, because they're not here right now. We can't ask them, but maybe we can invite them also to some of our committee meetings to talk about, you know, what they want going forward, you know. So thank you for that, Joe.
And I'll just say,
okay.
Yeah, sorry, Stephanie. Yeah, I'll just say what I like about this, and just bringing them into the interim meeting in August. I think it's really exciting, because as an adult, I feel like I do a lot of speculation on what the students need, and it's really nice not to have to. It'll be a really good opportunity not to have to speculate, right? To have to be able to just listen to the people we're actually trying to serve. And I also like that, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time, right? We can try it and adapt. There's a million ways we could tweak it to make it work for you know, in an authentic way. So I think it's a great movement forward. I'm super excited to see it.
Thank you for that. Anyone else want to chime in? Well, we've got plenty of time going forward to talk about this. I say that at least the first step is getting students there at our meeting. I think that's a huge step. And so, you know, I would love to as a board member talk to them. I'm sure he would as well. Love to talk to them, both of them, and see like what their thoughts are, and maybe that can even kind of decide what we're going to do going forward. That's really what should be happening. But district wise, I can just tell you, I don't think any of the board members have a frame of mind for what this would look like. And so without speaking for them, I would just have to say that, you know, let's just see how it goes, and let's see where this takes us. So I'm excited to even have the student voice to begin with. So, all right, did somebody put something in the chat? I wasn't sure if I saw that.
The comment from Lena.
Oh, okay. She says there are tons of logistics behind this process, and that our committee at large should work on drafting a document with all the information from other places and then present a proposal to the board. Okay, that's not a bad idea either. I'm sure Casey's very familiar, on other processes that are out there. And Hugh and I have sat in on a couple of the meetings that, Casey helped facilitate with some of our students too. So that's a very good suggestion. Casey, do you have anything to add to that comment?
I think I'm just recognizing my own impatience, and I apologize if that's because we have been talking about it really, from like at least a year, and I think I also have like the first person experience of interacting with students and having the challenge also. So I think we're talking about something that we don't know what it will be. And the only way we will know what it will be is when the students and adult allies are able to co-construct it together. And so I guess what I probably didn't say very well earlier is I don't know how I can continue to support that process, like without additional support, I guess, if that makes sense. But I recognize I'm also thinking ahead, I'm thinking about like after August, and so my mind is, way ahead. And also I'm obsessed with this topic. So
I'm right there with you, Casey. I'm wondering what happens after our August meeting. What are the next steps that we take then, and who takes ownership of that group then, as it moves to be, these students are going to be board representatives and representing their student body with at a board level. Who meets with them then? Who writes out all of the drafts of how we are not initiating, but how we're recruiting these students and how we're bringing on? Who helps Casey with that work besides just Casey, because she can't say what that framework or what everything will look like without higher level district approval and without ultimately board approval and input on that.
Well, I could suggest, that once we have our first student meeting, when they come to the board and speak, that perhaps we can do maybe an ad hoc committee meeting, or I could suggest an ad hoc meeting committee, to study this. And usually ad hoc, they're temporary committees. But if we're doing that with, for example, what we're trying to do with our 2 meetings a month of format. So we make our meetings shorter. Like that kind of thing can be done purposefully with 2 or 3 board members that really want to work on student voice and want to work with students that are interested. And perhaps that's an avenue we can go down. I can talk to their board members about that and see how they feel. I don't see why it's out of the realm of possibility to do it. We still need Casey though, and Caress. We still need all of you to, I guess, help support the process with them, because you guys have been part of it on the student end of it, more than board members have. But definitely we can all work together on it. So that's one suggestion I have, but we can talk about that too. Okay. Anything else, Casey, or would you want to move to our other discussion? I know we're flying through this agenda, but maybe this next one we can have a really good discussion on what we learned in our EDI roundtable discussion. I don't see anything in chat. Okay, so if we're done with this one, we're going to move to the roundtable reflection. Reason I wanted to bring this up is because the last meeting we had a really good discussion time and on our agenda, and I think for me it helped a lot. Being together at the roundtable and being able to talk in it, because it said to me, these are the things that the committee really wants or are frustrated with and that want to work on. And so I'm hoping that a lot of you felt the same way, and perhaps there are things you wanted to share. I definitely don't want to, ask you to share if you're not comfortable with that, but I felt it was really good. I took a lot of notes from that, and so I've got a plan of action. Miss Sidbury's not here, but we had a really good discussion, and I think she'll obviously be at our next meeting. And she did send some email, or I think we all sent some emails with some feedback, but if anybody wants to give their feedback, I think I have talked a lot about it. But let me see who's on now. Sean, I know I sat next to you at that meeting. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up that you enjoyed about having the roundtable, that you learned from the the discussion?
I mean, I think I learned a lot about the, the pace of systemic change and the momentum required in systemic change. The observation on the structures, policies, systems, and how that even if you remove like the variability of people from the equation, if your structures, policies, and systems are still set up a certain way, you're still going to get the same results, because a lot of times it's couched as just like an individual's problem, and it's not really always that. It's more complex than that in many cases, and that is an insight I don't know if I appreciated as much before that meeting. So I thought it was very valuable. I'm trying to think of some other lessons learned that I had, and I will say that even though I spoke up from time to time, I think that it was more important for me to listen in that meeting and get feedback from people who have been through the school system, and also just people who work in the school system. I think that it's really kind of important to get those perspectives in a very open and authentic way. It was a really good meeting, though. I thought it was really, people came and wanted to share both their experiences and just maybe some of the roadblocks and gatekeeps that they've seen that as part of their own experiences.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for sharing. Well, I hate to do this because I feel like when I was in school, I didn't like people calling on me, but I feel like there are people in our group that had a lot of good things to say. And I was hoping that maybe, we could share. I know, Miss Beatty, if you don't mind, I would love to hear, what you thought about our meeting and whether you feel like you want to share what we talked about.
Hi, so I've been listening along. I'm in the car. My mom had a couple of appointments and we ran over. So I'm listening in the car. I thought we were talking about the Sophie Solutions meeting, the round table, right?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought that went very well. I think people were pretty open and candid with how they felt about things and where they thought we could, improve. And some had concerns about, feeling like we were stuck and where do we go from here? And it almost seems like every time we get together, we start over and we should be much further along. But I really think that some good stuff came out of that and people opened up and, were more transparent than they had been. And I think having that face-to-face roundtable was very helpful because we have been in Zoom for quite a while. And, people do tend to kind of hide a little bit behind the camera, but when you come face to face, it just puts a whole different face and spin on things. But I thought it was a good meeting, and I hope that some good stuff came out of the meeting with the folks from SOFIC and the board and Dr. Smith that we can use going forward to help us do the work that we, set out to do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry. Yes, ma'am. Say again.
I was going to say I can share a few of.
Oh yes, please.
And for me, it really served as reminders and helped to frame things in ways. I guess Sean, just a little bit like you, that I hadn't really thought about them in that way before. One being specifically the dimensions of diversity. I think a lot of times we think about diversity in binary terms, male, female, black, white, and don't really think about it in terms of organizational diversity, which of course talks about like folks' work content, their seniority, even where they work, what department that they're in and that they represent. Also just the external dimensions of diversity, thinking about people who are coming from different geographic regions, their marital status, their educational levels or backgrounds, and then going to the internal dimensions. And again, that's where race and gender sits, but also age and sexual orientation. And so really just that meeting served as a reminder to that. And then for me, also one of the more powerful takeaways was just the reminder that if we only have half the story, then we can only focus on half the solution. So, you know, we really need to make sure that we have the voices that we're serving and supporting represented. And, you know, to your point, Casey, that very much includes students. It's, you know, again, we're only offering our opinion if we don't have them present and centered, have their voice centered as a part of the conversation and the discussion. So for me, it was wonderful being able to hear and even feel folks' passion for this work again. And I really appreciated being together and then that space. And then for me, something that's very specific to the work that I do as the chief academic officer for the district is to focus on what are the narratives that drive the outcomes. You know, so what are the things that we tell ourselves about students with disabilities? What are the things that we tell ourselves about Black males? What are the things we tell ourselves about white males? What are the things that we tell ourselves about folks who live in this neighborhood versus that neighborhood that really drives those outcomes? And so again, just a lot of reminders and opportunities to solidify my thinking around some important areas in that meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Is there anyone that wants to share? I'm going to call on you if you haven't spoken yet, just to get your, because I know, well, some people weren't there, I understand. So, but even if you wanted to just chime in as well, were you there, Mr. Adams? I don't know if you were there. I think you were. If you have anything to add, I'd love to hear it, or we all would love to hear it. She might just be like, no, good. Okay, well, while Mr. Lewis was there, Mr. Lewis, would you like to add anything to the discussion? You always have some very insightful things to say, but I'm going to put you on the spot, though. It's okay if you don't, but I would love to hear from you if you want to.
No, you're fine. I don't mind speaking. So yeah, I was there, of course, and I thought there was some really good, insightful information, honest and candid information others have already shared. As for me, I was reflecting on, you know, next steps, what we can do to, you know, actually effectuate some of these ideas into practice and to, you know, real change that we were speaking about, such as, you know, having more diversity in our teachers, and thinking about how those things affected me as a student in this district. And just really thinking about some of the things that we can put in place in the next steps. That's kind of what I was really thinking about and focusing on. And so I wrote a couple of ideas down, just for what next steps could look like, or what other districts are doing. So that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking about next steps, what we can do next. But I really definitely appreciated the candid conversations. And it was definitely good for getting the wheels spinning mentally for next steps.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think next steps, I think that ended up being on a lot of people's minds because, well, for me as a board member, not quite, you know, coming into the new to the committee, you know, not knowing what happened before I got there so much as what do I do? How can I be an effective board member? How can I bring things out of committee? What are my roles? And next steps definitely was on my mind too. I was very, I guess, kind of proud. I don't even know if that's the word, to see how many New Hanover County students were actually in our meeting, you know, that had come through the school system. I was one of them, and Mr. Lewis was. I know there was a few. And you know, that right there is a testament to that this district, you know, what it's done and what it also could do better. I mean, I know I can reflect as well on that. So I was kind of happy to see that. And, it did really kind of say to me, like, the overall take I think I got was that there was so much work being done. But we were kind of spinning our wheels. And I feel like, there's a little bit of impatience there. And I'm not surprised by it. Only reason I say that is because, I didn't know what happened before I got there. So if nothing had come out of committee, and that's really what committees are for, that frustration is definitely understandable. But it was nice to hear that, because as a board member, it's kind of hard to know if people were going to tell me what they really think, and being able to talk about it in a forum where people didn't feel or felt like they could say it. I was appreciative of that, because it's hard to know sometimes what your role is and what you can do to be effective. And Mr. McManus, he's not here, but I know I speak for him when I say this, that he said it before. He's a doer. He likes to get things done, and I'm the same as well. And he's all the time saying, what can we do? What can we bring out of committee? What are our next steps? And so I think this is really having an impact on him as well, being part of the committee, and he's constantly thinking about what he can do as a board member. So those are the initial things that came to my mind. I think I've gone through the list of people that were there. If anybody wants to add anything else, I would appreciate that.
Yeah,
If not, it's okay too. We're gonna have okay. Yeah.
I would just add, and so thinking about, the next steps and you providing an actual recommendation from the committee to the board for some type of action. I know I was probably feeling it internally is that, we got a ton of information, received a ton of information, learning a lot of new things as a committee and individuals as well. So I think providing a recommendation, one single or maybe multiple recommendations from the committee to the board will be difficult. Maybe we might be hesitant because we don't want to make a mistake or things like that. But I think most importantly is just making sure that we provide some type of recommendation. But I guess just focusing in on what we actually want to do. But I think there could be some hesitancy because there is a lot of information because this work is it's not easy, it's complicated. So getting to a single or maybe just multiple recommendations, for me at least, created some anxiety, but I think it's something that people are asking and wanting at this point.
Mm. Well, and we have the opportunity on board meetings every month to do committee reports, and that's one thing that I have not been doing. I think we did have something come out of Title IX, which was the survey, which was very helpful. And I think, whatever it looks like, whether it's either a recommendation or even just present data we have, and maybe we can get some. I always find talking about things out in a public forum is helpful, because maybe community members will hear it and think, well, what can we do better? Or how can it affect policy? Or is there a program or ad hoc committee we can work on? There's all kinds of things we could do with the information that we work on as a committee. And I remember in the meeting we did talk a lot about data. Maybe the flow of data is a lot better now than it was. I can't speak to what happened before I got there, but I think there's some new mechanisms in place to get data faster, and maybe we can work with that and present it. Like I said, I don't know what it looks like yet, but depending on what the topic that we prioritize and that we bring and really focus and work on as a group, we can really bring some good things out. And that hopefully, I felt like there were two tracks. There was a policy track, perhaps, but there was also, practice and administration stuff that happens, in the district. And obviously, we can recommend things to the superintendent as well. So, this is what my mind is thinking of what we can do with the data. But I don't know if anybody wants to speak on that data component. That seemed like that was a topic that we discussed a lot. And maybe it wasn't as free flowing as it could have been, but now it's probably a little bit better. I know I don't see Kirsten here. I know we're supposed to have I think somebody from Wake County is going to talk to us about what they do with data and how that might help our district. That's coming up probably this week, I think. So
yeah, that's this week.
Yeah.
I can speak to it a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kirsten and I are in sub one, which is the comparably high achievements subcommittee, and we've been trying to get data dictionary defined, so to speak. And that infrastructure has been challenging. I think that there is a lot of data out there. It's not in a consistent format, and so it's not easily compared across schools. That's one thing that we'd been running into as we started the project. And so our concentration has been so far on collaborating with Cape Fear Collective to get that data dictionary defined and standardized such that reporting is easy and consistent throughout the district. And then later this week, we have a meeting with Wake County, their data and accountability representative, on their benchmarking. And we've got a lot of information to benchmark from them. So it's exciting. And I think that we've got like the start of the path forward. And then we also have like some best practices to consider as we're kind of establishing that. So it is exciting. I will say it has been a longer term project. And Dr. Smith kind of mentioned that, when you're doing systemic change, it does tend to be longer term. So that has been a little bit, not frustrating. I don't want to say frustrating, but you have to have patience when we're setting up the infrastructure to get that going. So that's where we stand with the data collection. Now we have had some data presented to us that the district has just happened to have over the past couple of years. And I think Julie did one of those sessions, and I forget who else. Another person from administration did one of those sessions on AIG, I want to say. And so we have had people in their areas of expertise come in and help us understand the current state.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
think of
Go ahead.
almost like putting together a puzzle where all the pieces look very similar. And so you want to build it in a sustainable way. And so you need to make sure that you've got that right piece. So I definitely feel good about the conversations that are going to be had this week. And then also, I think it's, at some point, there probably will be even more conversations about looking at a district dashboard, which really would automate those processes. And so in districts like Wake, where you're going to find that they've got, a full-on research and development division, or other districts where they have, system-wide data dashboards. There's probably an automaticity and simplicity to it that we don't have, but I am encouraged that we can get there. But you want to build it in a sustainable way, and I think we've got at least the border of the puzzle put together.
Yeah, definitely very worthy thing to work on, because really I find that a lot of the things that we work on and other committees rely on real, timely data. Then, that helps evaluate programs. It helps evaluate a lot of things. It's not just helpful for committee work. It's very helpful for the district as well, just to know what's working and what's not working, or how we can maybe change course if it isn't. It'll be helpful for the superintendent. I think Kirsten talked about, having his ability to evaluate programs with data is part of this process of collecting it, and like say in a timely kind of manner where, and I heard that we were incorporating some things too, and I don't want to talk about it because I'll say the wrong things, but they're real. I wouldn't say real time, because that sounds like it's just automatic, but like even, maybe it's a week or two out, then, we can, that gives us a chance to measure what things are working. So I think data is a very important thing. We've never really, at least I haven't really had a chance to wrap my mind around as far as how that works for the district in making our program successful, or, changing course. So, so that's exciting. That's going to help that's going to happen this week too. Anything that anyone's using that's working that will help us, I think is a positive thing. So does anybody else want anything to the discussion either, the roundtable we had or any other. I know we're missing quite a few people, and that's okay. Everybody needs to go on vacation. It's all good. But is anybody that's here on the meeting want to talk more about anything in particular or bring anything up?
Share two things. One is
Okay.
that roundtable. I think a lot of times, I know I sometimes go in, and I know other colleagues go into those kinds of spaces like dreading, because this work is like exhausting sometimes. But then when you walk away from it, it's almost like a sense in some cases of healing that transpires. And I feel like that is exactly what needs to occur everywhere all the time in our community. So I'm just throwing that out there as like context for the value of it. And then the other thing that I really appreciated about the the collaborators, I guess is the word, from Sophic Solutions, is their emphasis on common vocabulary and shared language. I think we're talking about major buzzword terms, and anytime you're talking about major buzzword terms, there's huge danger. So huge danger in misusing and misunderstanding and just not talking about the same thing. So I found that really valuable to consider what are some of our important vocabulary terms that, people here on the screen are essentially ambassadors for in some ways.
Thank you for sharing. Well, there anybody else that wants to add? I love all the good points. I think they're great. I think, gosh, that's going to be real value. It's like having us all together. Can you imagine? It's just going to be so much better to be able to collaborate on some of these things together. I see Mr. O'Brien on there. I know he's muted, but I didn't know if he wanted to add anything, and that's okay if you don't. You're obviously a very valuable voice too, and you weren't at the round table, but I know you're part of the work group. Does any of this speak to you?
Well, it sure does, and I think that the longevity in terms of being on this kind of start to present, I think I'm able to reflect, and I certainly understand frustrations when things seem to not progress as quickly as we would like it to. But I can say that we're certainly not where we need to be, but I think certainly that the group has done good work and that progress has been achieved and made. So I'm just thankful to the group and would just encourage everyone to just hang in there, because we are making progress, and it is good progress.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, if no one has anything else they want to add, and I'll give like a couple more seconds for that. If not, Mr. McManus is not with us today, so I can't give his closing the way he can. But Dr. Smith, do you have anything else to add or announce before I guess we close?
No, just, my thank you to everyone and appreciation for the commitment that you've made to this work.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. Well, in closing, I guess since I'm not Mr. McManus, I will just say that I look forward to our conversations too in the future, and I look forward to getting back together. And like I said, I will be reaching out to as many of you as I can. I've been getting the phone numbers for everyone and having some really good chats, and so I'm going to keep reaching out to everyone, and hopefully I'll get that survey out and we can get some direction going forward. I hear somebody there. Is that Miss?
Hey, Stephanie.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
I sent you an email a little over a week ago to let you know when I was available. Did you get that?
I actually did. I had some family issues this weekend, so I haven't had a chance to get to everybody, but you're still on my call list. I will call you.
And I put a question
in better times.
Yeah, and I put something in the chat too a few minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I didn't even see that. I was too busy talking myself. So Ms. Beatty says, we have so much that we are trying to do to address equity. It will be good when we meet one of our goals. You're absolutely will be good when we meet our goals. And I think that when we prioritize this, I think once I get that survey together and get all the results and we decide what we really want to work on, I think we're gonna really get something done. Whatever that looks like, we're not sure yet, but it's going to
Ms. Walker.
feel like we're not just, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
ahead.
Sometimes I think the timing's off. I thought there was a long enough pause
It
there.
is.
I apologize. But I think
Go
Ms.
ahead,
Beatty,
go ahead.
Ms. Beatty was, there was one above that. She was asking, where are we on the elementary suspension policy recommendations?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. I didn't see that. So Mr. McManus and I have asked to be put on the agenda. We actually asked for it to be on the agenda for tomorrow's night's discussion, but the agenda was so full and we have not had interim meetings the last 2 months for whatever reason. So, you know, he has said it's okay for us to talk about it or have it on the agenda for the August meeting. But in time, we're definitely going, I've had discussions with board members over it. We really want to collaborate with Ms. Farnham on this too, since she has, you know, got this initiative started on, you know, on discipline. We do expect for it to be on the initial, I'm getting some background noise. Is that somebody, Ms. Beatty? Am I muting?
Yeah, it's
Thank
probably
you.
me.
We do, thank you. But it is going to be on the August regular board meeting for discussion. The suspension issue. I know some community members are going to be there to do a press conference tomorrow, I've heard. But we are, and I've let him know that as well, that we are going, it is approved to be on the agenda in August. So just giving you a heads up on that. And so we got about a month to kind of really have conversations about that before it comes up. So definitely reach out to Mr. McManus or I, or both of us, to just let us know, you know, if you have any feedback on that. I hope that answers the question. I know that's not everything. Okay, yeah, and I look forward to talking to Ms. Beatty soon. Okay, good. All right. Thanks, Casey, for that. And so I guess we'll go ahead and just close out. Thank you everyone for coming again and coming to the meeting again. I know it's summer, but I look forward to working with you guys going forward and getting back together live and in person. And that's all I have to say. I guess we made it to almost an hour, so that's good because I was flying through that agenda. All right, Dr. Smith, I think I've closed. I don't know what else. I hate to just hang up. What do you think?
Well, I hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye all. Have a good night.
Good night.